Écoutez le monde vétérinaire autrement sur Veto Micro, un podcast produit par Thémavet.
Bonjour, je suis Colline Musel, vétérinaire, coach, formatrice et cofondatrice de Wondervet.
Et moi, je suis Marine Slove, vétérinaire, entrepreneur, podcasteuse et fondatrice de Thémavet.
Bienvenue sur le podcast numéro 1 de la profession qui démontre qu'il y a 1000 façons d'être vétérinaire. Vous entendrez ici des consoeurs et des confrères, qu'ils soient praticiens ou non, raconter leur parcours professionnel, leurs réussites et les joies qui vont avec, mais aussi leurs difficultés et leurs échecs.
C'est toujours avec le même enthousiasme que nous prêtons notre micro aux vétérinaires pour la 3e saison consécutive, pour continuer à nous raconter tels que nous sommes vraiment, interroger notre quotidien professionnel bien sûr, mais aussi et avant tout notre rapport à la vie, au monde animal et à la planète.
Le tout saupoudré d'une bonne dose de déculpabilisation.
Vous êtes ici chez nous.
Mais surtout, vous êtes ici chez vous.
Belle écoute! Aujourd'hui, Colline et moi vous laissons en compagnie de Sophie Wilford, vétote multicasquette et multinationale, pour une aventure vétérinaire 100% internationale.
This week on Veto Micro, we are going international once again and heading to Denmark this time to meet Morten Hinge, a dentistry vet superstar. Welcome, Morten, and thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
So, Morten, you graduated in 2012 from Copenhagen University in Denmark, and today you are a dentistry superstar, helping make dentistry sexy to vets with over 63,000 followers on Instagram. You work exclusively in small animal dentistry as a referral veterinarian, and you now share your time in clinics with extremely successful remote training programs you created. These are aimed at general practitioners with a view to increase general knowledge and reduce stress in practice. This content sharing and teaching adventure started 7 years ago, but before we get to this chapter of your life, I have a few questions up my sleeve. Are you ready?
Yeah, awesome.
So, first question, why and when did you decide to become a vet?
Well, basically, I wasn't the person who always knew I was going to be a veterinarian. I knew I wanted to do something that involved around having a day-to-day work that was ever-changing. So I had an idea about maybe become a paramedic or police officer or something like that, where exciting things are happening and no 2 days will be the same. But around 9th grade, I decided to go into like a small externship just as part of school 1 week to visit a veterinarian. And I'm not sure where it came from. I always loved animals, but there were no veterinarians in my family. But I went there and they had me cauterize some bleeding vessels in a pyometer surgery. And I was like, 13 years old. And this is very fascinating to me. And I like this way of working where you could, there was the medical knowledge, but also a lot of practical things. I like that a lot.
And so from then on, you decided that was the path you were going to follow. No more hesitations.
Yeah, I applied for it, and at first I thought I didn't get in. There was a miscommunication, so I already went out and said, "Okay, I didn't get in. Sorry." We went and drank a funeral beer. We call that in Denmark, where we grieve about something. And then suddenly, 2 days before the study started, I received an email like, "Are you in or not?" And so apparently I was in the class, and I was in a big rush to get to Copenhagen because I was living in a completely different town. But it all went very well, and I can say for sure this being a veterinary student is a lot of fun. It's hard work, but also a lot of fun.
So you studied in Copenhagen. For our French listeners, what do Danish vet studies look like, and how did they go for you?
So we have lectures every day, but also some practical training sessions. And you have to be very responsible for the curriculum. And I think you have to, nobody is going to really pace you like they did in college or in school. So you're more on your own. And, I felt that also because you have to kind of balance how much free time I'm allowed to take while still studying for exams. And I wasn't an A student. I did fail a couple of exams, statistics, for example. I failed that the first time, and I didn't know why I would need statistics, but I found out when I was writing my thesis. But I've always been very visual and practical, and I was happy to find myself in a place where there's a lot of practical work, where even though if you don't feel like you're the best at internal medicine cases, there's still a place for you in veterinary medicine. Because many vets, I think they believe that internal medicine, that's like the greatest, that you have to be really good with how to treat hypoadrenocorticism and all of this stuff. But there's really a place for everybody, and that's what I like so much about the studies. You could select what path you took. So the first 3 years was bachelor, a lot of theory, and the last 2 years of the study, that's when you really feel like you are in the vet school, because that's when you get to lay your hand on live animals. But you have to endure the first 3 years, and then things gets more fun.
So when did your excitement for the dentistry part start?
It actually did not start right away. I was thrown into general practice. It was mixed animal practice. So I was treating cows and horses in the morning and small animals in the afternoon. And I really liked that change of getting into a car and driving around to the farms in the morning. I really liked interacting with the farmers and also the occasional horse. But then in the afternoon, there was always dental patients. And it was a way for me to get into more surgical work. And I wanted to be a surgeon more than I wanted to be in internal medicine. And I found out that working with dentistry, that's like being a surgeon. You are a surgeon just in the oral cavity. And the really good thing about that is that it will keep you out of the consultation room doing vaccinations all day. So I really enjoyed that I didn't have to be the traditional veterinarian doing lots of consultations. So I knew I wanted to do like a surgical path. And I also I shadowed a lot of veterinarians that were already doing dentistry on a high level. There was a period of time where every Tuesday, I would drive for a couple of hours up to a colleague in the northern part of the country. I would shadow her. She was good with dentistry for like a day, and then come back. So I did that every week for a while. And I think being able to shadow other veterinarians that are doing what you want to do, it's really, really, really useful. And usually the boss, it's like free education, right? They lose you for a day, but they don't have to pay. They just pay your gas for the car and so on. So it's a win-win for everybody.
So you identified sort of the pros and just picked up your phone, I guess, and see if you could spend some time with them.
Yeah, exactly. And I was, with dentistry, you are thrown into it immediately. And the problem here is that most veterinarians feel very insecure about dentistry, and for good reason, because this is universal to in the entire world. No vet school is teaching dentistry to an adequate level, to the level that you need when you finish school. So in my case, in my school, the only training I got with dentistry was I scaled and polished a quarter of a mouth unattended. Nobody was watching. And that's it. I never tried to extract a tooth. I don't remember having any theory. Maybe we had 1 or 2 lessons, but it was all forgotten. All the things you needed to do when your boss put your first dental cleaning patient in front of you, it wasn't there. So you have to learn from scratch, and then you learn from your boss, who probably didn't learn dentistry the right way either. And the result of this is that you feel very stressed because you don't have the adequate tools, or maybe you have the tools, you don't know how to use them correctly. And you're also fighting that old mentality of, if a tooth is not loose, it doesn't have to come out. And this is really not true anymore. So I think that it was, dentistry is just so interesting to me because you're like a detective. You get the patient, you never know what you will get. Once you finish your full mouth X-ray, you will open a box, the Pandora's box of disease that you never thought you would find. So I like this way of working, not knowing exactly what will happen, and take the challenge from there.
Mm. Do you think the teaching has improved since you graduated, or do you think we're still at a situation that we're lacking a lot?
It did improve a bit. They got a little bit more hands-on. Now I hear that they have like a small, like a 1-day wet lab where we get to try and extract a few incisors from cadaver. I didn't get that, so that's good. But it's really unbalanced still. You don't learn real skills. And the problem is that periodontitis is the most common disease of all diseases. If you take into consideration heart disease, kidney disease, endocrine disease, all of those things combined, periodontitis is the biggest debilitating disease of them all. And 80% of our companion animals have it. So that means this is a huge welfare problem. And it's undertreated and underdiagnosed. So this is kind of like my mission. I want to help the veterinarians help their patients to feel better and to increase the welfare standards of our companion animals that are suffering silently, basically.
So how did that vocation, that sort of teaching spark appear then?
I think that social media has been really kickstarting this for me, because I was also scrolling through Instagram and Facebook 7 years ago, and I came across a guy who, his name was Graham Pet Dentist, and he always posted the most beautiful sutures after he did surgery in the oral cavity. And I was really intrigued by this and thought that, well, this is kind of cool that he's sharing some nice things. And because it's very hard to find practical step-by-step stuff that you can apply immediately. There's textbooks, yes, but in textbooks, it's mostly text and a few images. But where do you find an actual protocol, an actual video, step-by-step video of extracting a tooth, doing a cleaning, doing full mouth X-ray? It's really not out there. So I was inspired to start my own thing, not because I knew I wanted to make it a career to teach, but just because I like posting nice photos. And so I stole the name, and instead of calling, his name was Graham, so he was Graham Pet Dentist. So I said, okay, I'll be Morten Vet Dentist, because I wanted to not focus on the pet parents, but on the veterinarians. So that's how that name started. And then I just started posting pictures about procedures. And I invested too much money into expensive camera gear to be able to post photos that were unlike anything else that you'll find. The sharpness is extreme, so you can see all the details. And once you start doing things like that, it just becomes more and more fun, and the engagement picks up, and more people are starting to follow you. And so I basically try to put out some things where people could learn something. But you know what the most difficult thing about putting yourself out there online is? It's basically, there's something called imposter syndrome. And and this is universal. I think everybody has that. And I truly felt that in the beginning, because who am I to tell other vets what to do? I'm not even a specialist. Yes, I do have a lot of special knowledge. I took a lot of courses, but I don't have that title. And so it took a while for me, and I was listening to a lot of different podcasts about that, about mindset and things. It took a while for me to realize that, well, yes, I am good enough. I have special knowledge with this, and I can explain things in a different way than a specialist can. I can explain it in a very down-to-earth way, a very visual way, whereas being a specialist, they often try to fit a lot of theory, and that's important. I get that. But when the biggest problem you have, you just want to know how to get this tooth out. You don't want to read a lot about embryology and very theoretic things.
Totally. And so how did you go about... No, actually, I'll double back. First question, that creative side, this desire to go and get some equipment, take some more photos, higher quality photos. Is that something that you always had, or is it something that you sort of discovered by doing?
Actually, when I was a small kid, I wanted to be a cameraman. I wanted to record for television. And I always had that technical thing in me. I always wanted to know how things work. Like before I threw anything out, any electronic device at home when I was a kid, I would take it apart in all its pieces. I wanted to see what it looked like inside. So I think it's my brain he wants to understand how things work, and the technical aspect has always been very interesting to me. I've always been into computer gaming and all that stuff, and every gadget and technical things is amazing. I never thought that photography would be something I was going into, but it's a necessity, because if you look at some, the biggest human dental accounts on Instagram or Facebook, they all produce amazing looking photos. And in order to be able to produce an amazing looking photo that really can show all the detail you want to show, you need to have that knowledge about how a camera works. What is the ISO and the aperture and shutter speed and what lenses to use, and all this stuff is something you certainly do not learn about in vet school. So after I felt that I learned what I needed with teeth, and you're never finished learning. You always learn new things every day. It was interesting because when I started with this whole Instagram thing, I would spend almost a year every time I went on YouTube. It was not to look at a dental video. It was about how does a camera work, what camera to buy, what lens to buy, how to make good lighting, and how does a ring flash work. And so I really when I do something, I do it 200%. I dive into it head first, and I focus only on that. So all podcasts I was listening to, all videos I was watching was about cameras and how to make great photos and videos. And then I learned that. And yeah, it's a problem for me. I cannot just buy something impulsively. I have to research for weeks before I finally decide. That's a weak spot also. Sometimes you just gotta move and go with it. But I think it's that interest of really diving into the technical aspects and thinking that theory is boring, but you have to understand the technical things. And that's what I think what shines through on my Instagram. I really want to show people what to do, exactly what to do. Don't just tell them what to do or talk about it. Show it to them so they can do it themselves.
And the teaching side of things, again, is that something that came naturally, or do you look back at your first Instagram post and go, oh, cringe?
I started posting in Danish, and the first few posts was in Danish, and then I realized, no, I need a bigger audience. I need to be able to help veterinarians in the whole world, not just in Denmark. So I switched to English, and it's, I just like teaching. I like seeing that, getting that feedback from people that, okay, you showed me this yesterday. I tried it and it actually works, and it was much less stressful for me. So I've started with posting just small tips and tricks, and then it went into, how about I try to create a masterclass, 1 hour lesson on something. And this is where it changed from being just for fun to actually being a business. And that transition is a very, it's hard to overcome, because imagine that you're having trouble, putting yourself out there teaching for free. Now imagine the stress of asking people to pay for it. This is a whole different ballgame. But I will say something that it's all in your mind. It's a mindset thing. And the reason I can tell you why I focused on trying to make a business out of it was time. We had 2 small kids at home. We have 2 girls. They are pseudo twins, so they're born 1 year apart. And I was always on night shift, working as a veterinarian. My wife had it was tough having those little kids, and she was trying to make a career for herself also. So we were just lacking time, and with all these night shifts, I was always gone. It was a struggle at home, and I was spending so much time on my phone, posting things, interacting with people who followed me, that it was starting to get obvious that this is almost a second job for me. I'm spending just as much time on this as I would do if it was a regular job. So I was listening to some podcasts about creating courses, about business podcasts and so on. And I realized that, well, maybe I can make a small income of this just so I can quit the night shifts. So I can get out of those night shifts to get more time for the family. And that's when I started to offer a masterclass. So the very first offer I did was like, okay, I'm thinking about making a masterclass about how to extract a canine tooth in a dog. Who's in? So I asked just on social media, and actually people were responding. I said, okay, I'm going to charge you €6, extremely low price, because you don't want to overprice yourself. And people were actually interested in buying, because that's something I found out later, that people who pay, they pay attention, and so that slowly transitioned into realizing that people wanted more. They wanted more knowledge. They didn't just want short posts on social media, but I was able to create an actual course that lasted 1 hour where I could really dive deep into this topic. And it resonated a lot with people. And I got a very small income next to my job, so I could stop night shifts. And that really helped my family, the whole situation. And it's just been snowballing from there, actually.
So tell me a little bit more about your courses then. You started with a masterclass, and today, if you go on your website, we'll share the link, of course, you've got a whole array of different courses. What happened over that period of time?
Basically, I continued doing masterclasses I did 7 masterclasses. So after I've created 7 masterclasses, I thought, well, why not bundle these 7 masterclasses into a course and then add a coaching on top of that, so a personal contact. So I wanted to help people more directly. And so I packed all the masterclasses into a product that people could buy. But when they bought this, they also got my help, personal help, for 6 weeks. So it means they could log in, watch all those 7 masterclasses. And I did add several more lessons in between to fill the gaps. So it felt more like a coaching program where you went from A to C with dentistry. And this is a completely new way of learning dentistry compared to traditional ways where you go to a practical hands-on course for a weekend, and you struggle with having enough time to do everything. And when you go home, then there's nobody to ask and you are left by yourself. So I wanted to change that way of learning dentistry, also in a busy society where everybody is too busy to go to these courses, and maybe you have a clinic to run. So I offered they could get this package and my personal help for 6 weeks. So I would just create a chat where people could, every time they took an X-ray, they're not sure how to interpret, they could ask me in the chat, and I would answer. Every time they had a surgery, they were not sure how to proceed, or a case they were unsure of, they would have me as a mentor. And this is really, I really get a lot of enjoyment out of connecting with veterinarians from all over the world, because it is truly all over the world. I have people from Indonesia and United States and Germany and Svalbard in North Pole. I have people from everywhere. Also people who cannot readily go to a course. So this is another opportunity for them to learn dentistry.
And because you could almost argue, or you'd sort of think, oh well, if you haven't got the hands-on, that's what you kind of need. But I suppose they're getting the hands-on, but with that extra push of confidence from you, perhaps with availability for questions. Is that how you kind of see it?
Exactly. I still think people need hands-on for as part of your general education with dentistry, but what makes this difference is that you can rewatch everything. You can see everything in detail. If you've ever been to a hands-on practical course, I've been to plenty of those. What typically happens is that you go through some theory, and then you go into another room and you do some practical things. And oftentimes the teacher wants to demonstrate the surgery on a cadaver. So they sit at the table and they have maybe 20 people standing around this table while the instructor is demonstrating the surgery. This can take like 45 minutes and nobody can see anything because everybody is cramped trying to see what's going on. And I think it's having a close-up video where you can see every detail recorded in 4K with optimal lighting. You can see every stroke with the burr, exactly where to make your cut. how to release the flap. You can see all those details. And when you leave the course, you go home, you still have those videos. You can see it while you do the surgery and so on. It doesn't give you that feel. You need a certain feel with the instruments. You need to know how to handle the instruments properly in order not to slip and make mistakes. So the practical aspect is genuinely needed. But I'm providing all the visual guidance to make it work. I'm also started doing practical sessions in like 2-day hands-on extraction wet labs. I've started doing those, and I have my first one coming up here in a few days. So that is just because I know it's very important to get that practical, but everything else is so much easier when you have it on your phone. When you have a course, you can go virtual videos when you are walking with your baby stroller, or when you are doing something else, you can learn in a completely new way.
So it's like having a Morten Hinge in your pocket kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. And that's a great thing, because when I went to the courses before, I didn't have, you could try emailing the instructor, but like most likely you won't get an answer. And so you're on your own. And I try to hold people's hands, so to speak, for a certain period of time. And this is really a confidence boost. I mean, even after just 6 weeks of working together, it was like things got so much easier. They were extracting teeth in half the time. They were doing full mouth extractions without a bunch of retakes. And life just got easier for those veterinarians. So based on the feedback and that I've gotten from my members, it certainly shows that it's filling a huge gap. And it's a way that busy people like to learn. Because, if you have to schedule 2 days away from the clinic, you lose 2 days full revenue. You have to travel, you have the hotel expenses and all of that stuff. And this is not needed with my online thing. I still recommend people to go to practical courses, of course, but this is just a different layer that you can add to your education.
Talking about feedback, what is the best feedback you've ever had for your courses or your approach?
The best feedback is, so I had one vet who told me that, now the nurses are laughing at her when she's doing full mouth x-ray. They cannot keep up anymore. So it's those feedback that instead of spending 45 minutes trying to extract a carnassial tooth, now they get it out in 20 minutes because they know exactly what to do. They're able to speak to the owners with confidence and make the owners aware that there is a problem and that it's needed. So the communication part is also very important, because we all know those clients who say, well, yeah, it's eating, so it cannot be painful. And then they don't want to do the treatment. But after applying the scripts, I have the system and the way we should speak about dentistry with clients, I get the feedback from people, and now it's much easier. Like the clients are actually, they want you to treat the pets instead of trying to come up with excuses all the time. I've had a handful of people from taking my course who are now starting their own specialty. So they are starting their own dental service. They're specializing in dentistry only. I have a few who have started dental residencies to become specialists after taking my program, because it was so inspiring for them and they felt that, okay, I can do this. And they could see that this was a great career. So these are some of the feedbacks that it's just amazing to get, that you can actually change people's career and their whole life by inspiring them for just 6 to 10 weeks of however you are in this course. That's really warming to my heart. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real stepping stone. Congratulations on that. It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
I'd like to zoom out a little and talk about dentistry, small animal dentistry as a whole. How much has it changed since you graduated 13 years ago, do you think?
It certainly changed a lot. When I started, I did not have dental x-ray. And it was not common to have dental x-ray in smaller clinics. So just by realizing that we needed that has helped tremendously. It's a funny story because my boss, we had to choose between getting a therapeutic laser, so like a laser for recovery and so on, or a dental x-ray. And I wanted the laser because I thought it would look cool to have those glasses on and then put the glasses on the dogs and all that stuff. I didn't care much about dental x-ray because I've been doing dentistry for a year at that time, and I extracted teeth without x-ray, and I thought I was doing a good job. But my boss was insisting on getting that dental x-ray. And once we got that, it was like, okay, this is a whole new world opening up, because you find, like, on every other patient, you would find something where you thought to yourself, oh my God, I'm so happy I took this image, because if I didn't know this, I would have sent this dog home with a big abscess that was painful. So I think diagnostics has really changed a lot, and doing dentistry without x-ray it's not, it is common in some areas. I mean, not all countries. There are entire countries that don't have dental x-ray. And then, I mean, people get by without. But I really encourage everybody I talk to invest in that. So that's a huge thing that has changed. Diagnostics, also getting cone beam CTs, scanners, and all of these things. And just looking at dentistry as something that is not something that should be over with quickly. I mean, in many clinics, it's the nurse student who are getting the cleanings. So the boss is like, here's a cleaning, you clean these teeth, and you have 30 minutes to clean them until your next appointment. And this is a huge problem, because we need to take dentistry seriously, just as seriously as anything else. And if you put someone without training to do it, you will lose a lot of revenue. You will lose the client's trust eventually, because the next vet they visit, they will find the things that you missed because you didn't have x-ray and so on. And I'm also feeling a shift in the mindset of clients. I've had clients that are very upset with their previous vet because they didn't take x-ray and they didn't find all these things that I will find during my examination. And I think it just shows that people want the best, and we should not be afraid to offer the best to the clients. So I think it's the seriosity that is around dentistry has changed a lot. It's not something that you just do quickly while you do a spay or while you do another treatment. It's actually standalone treatment, and you make entire rooms just for dentistry, and you invest their entire clinics just doing dentistry. So it's really getting more and more recognition.
What do you think the gold standard should be then in dentistry?
So gold standard should be full mouth x-ray. So take x-ray of every tooth on every patient. That's the first thing. If you don't do that, you will send home 30% of your patients with disease that should have been treated and potentially painful. So that's the gold standard. Next thing is not just to clean the tartar, but actually look and do probing. So when you go to your own dentist, they have a probe and they'll walk around your teeth and they measure pockets. And we need to do that too. So that's another gold standard. And then, of course, anesthesia, you need to intubate, not to cause any aspiration, and because you're spraying a lot of water into the throat. So those things should be the standard of care when you are doing dentistry.
What are the main challenges, do you think, for vets today in this area still?
The main challenges is, speed. So they feel that, they are slow extracting teeth and interpreting dental x-ray. That's another thing. But what I think is more important to focus on is the culture of the clinic, the boss. I mean, I've had vets where the boss is actively working against them, trying to increase the standard of care with dentistry, because they have an old school boss where dentistry should only take 30 minutes. And teeth should just be plucked out when they're loose. If they're not loose, you should leave them. So I think those are some of the struggles, is to convince the clinic, the boss, the clients, convince everybody that this is necessary to take very seriously. And this is what I focus a lot about in my course, not just teaching how to extract the tooth, but how to be allowed to do it by your boss and by the client. So that is something that needs a lot of focus, and we should set aside time to do dentistry properly. I mean, setting aside 2 hours per patient is a very good estimate, because you will spend around 1 hour full mouth x-ray, cleaning, examination, talking to the owner, and then you will spend usually easily 1 hour on extractions. So setting aside enough time and taking seriously within the clinic, that's a big struggle, but we're getting there. It's getting better and better. And once you are at that level, the next kind of set of struggles is speeding up your procedure. That comes down to having the correct equipment, knowing how to sharpen your equipment, and knowing how to use it properly, and these things. Yeah.
Sound advice. Where do you see dentistry, small animal dentistry, being in sort of 10 years' time?
I think we'll have more and more clinics that are only doing dentistry, so specializing. And I think that we will see veterinarians doing like more of, let's say, endodontic treatments or periodontal treatments. Like in human medicine or in human dentistry, we have endodontists and periodontists and orthodontists. So within dentistry, there are about 10 specialties that you can choose from and be an expert in. So now, as a veterinary person doing dentistry, we have to do all of these 10 things. But I think we'll see more and more veterinarians that are particularly good at just this one thing, and then you go with those. I think the next thing is diagnostic imaging. Having a cone beam CT instead of to supplement your dental x-rays. It will not replace it. A cone beam CT, it's like a mini CT scanner for the head, where it's much sharper, much more detailed than a regular CT, and you can see things that you're not able to detect on x-ray. So you can see when there's an abscess or granuloma or cyst beginning to form around the root tip before you can even see it on x-ray. So that is the next big thing, is to invest in advanced diagnostic imaging like those cone beam CTs. And we will also move more towards atraumatic extractions. So removing less and less bone, and making, smaller flaps to reduce the post-op complications and pain by utilizing advanced equipment like piezoelectric surgery. So this is a it's an ultrasonic scaler on steroids that will, when you put it on bones, it will remove bone, but it will not damage soft tissue or vessels or nerves. And this is extremely useful for dental surgery. And this has already been implemented in many clinics. So having those special modalities, the diagnostic image, better tools, better visuals, getting the loops so you can sit straight and see what you're doing is extremely important. I think we are moving more towards a more professionalized area of veterinary medicine, which is dentistry only.
Sounds very cool. And certainly means you're going to be in the business of teaching for a while longer, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
You're dedicating more and more time, in fact, to your teaching projects. Any secrets you can let us in on, your future plans?
Right now, you see, the news thing for me is I am working less and less in clinics. I've really decided to take the next year and devote myself fully into helping other veterinarians doing dentistry. I will still be in my clinic and taking referral cases from other veterinarians, but I will be working more and more on improving the courses that I can provide. A funny thing is, last week I actually was invited to a zoo, tropical zoo, to extract a canine tooth in a jaguar. And this is, the most amazing day for me, because it's something I thought, oh, this is something only specialists will get invited to. And suddenly I'm there, I'm doing these things just by the power of people knowing me from Instagram, from my courses and so on. So I'll be hopefully doing more of that stuff also with the exotic animals. But my main focus for the next year is just to create better and better courses and helping more and more veterinarians.
Yeah, so people who haven't heard of you, Morten, please go and see. The pictures are very cool. The videos are very cool. This jaguar. Yeah. Before I transition on to last questions, we've covered quite a few things, but perhaps there's a subject or a couple subjects that we haven't broached that you would like to talk about.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure.
Nothing springs to mind?
I think we covered a lot of things. Yeah. Maybe you have some specific questions. Maybe.
Well, I have the traditional one, which is, when you look back, you've done so much over the course of your career, and some really exciting things. And you broached a little bit on imposter syndrome, which, as you said quite rightly, I think affects a lot of people generally, and probably a lot of people in the veterinary profession. If you met the young Morten Hinge, freshly graduated, that is just starting, what would you say to him?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say to myself, don't be afraid to admit the things you don't know. And what I mean by that is that when you are a new veterinarian, you feel like you should know everything, and you don't want to lose your face to the clients. You don't want to appear like you don't know the answer. So in many times you will kind of come up with something that you're not sure of, instead of just be honest and say, I don't know, but I'll be happy to find out. Can I call you back? Can I talk to you tomorrow? I'll do some research and I'll get back to you. So I think that when you're new, you're so afraid of showing the things you don't know. But once you get more experienced and you realize, there are more things you don't know than you actually do know. And by being honest about it, you remove the stress completely, because you're very stressed because you're trying to come up with things and you're not sure. But if you show the pet owners that, I'm not sure about this, but I'm happy to find out, then they will trust you much more than if you try to come up with half answers.
Really sound advice that probably resonates with a lot of people, if not 100% of people, I would say.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Morten. It's been really great chatting to you. Thank you so much for sharing all this story, all this life story and information. We'll obviously be sharing all of your social media and web details with the episode. And I hope, you'll get a lot of the French people, French speakers following you. So you have to keep us updated on that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to learn to speak French.
Indeed. Have you got a French goodbye to say?
Oh, no. I don't know anything.
Well, thank you, Morten. Thanks very much. And thank you to our listeners.
All right. Thank you.
Merci d'avoir écouté cet épisode de Veto Micro. Si le cœur vous en dit, partagez-le à vos amis et à vos collègues, abonnez-vous au podcast et mettez-nous une note de 5 étoiles avec un gentil commentaire. C'est ce qui nous permet de remonter dans les classements et de donner de la voix à la profession. Si vous souhaitez participer à Veto Micro, nous suggérer des invités ou tout simplement nous écrire, faites-le sur l'adresse podcast@themavet.fr. Prenez soin de vous et à la semaine prochaine pour écouter une nouvelle façon d'être vétérinaire.